Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta Volume 6, Uniting Two Worlds, Around the World / Return to Vrindavan, 1975 to 1977. A biography of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder, Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, by Satsvarup Das Goswami. Chapter 7, Chant, Hare Krishna, and Fight, Part 5. As Srila Prabhupada entered his beautiful quarters at Hare Krishna land, he remarked that no one could outdo Sarabi Swami. "I think I haven't such a place to live anywhere in the world," he said. "Los Angeles and New York are big cities, and London, Paris, but nobody can present such luxurious royal palace." Seeing how the one large room was arranged to facilitate his different activities, Srila Prabhupada said, "This is like my room at the Radha Damodar temple. In one corner, I am writing. In another corner, I am sitting. In another corner, I am taking prasadam." The comparison was odd, since the Radha Damodar place was a tiny cell. Yet Srila Prabhupada saw them as related. The beginning in Vrindavan, and the apex in Bombay. In either place, he was the same person, humbly taking a little prasadam, writing his books, and ambitiously planning for spreading Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada discussed with several of his disciples and Dr. Sharma about his daily routine in Bombay. He said he would come down for darshan of the deity and would lecture once a week on Sunday. On special occasions, he would see a visitor in his quarters, but rarely. Generally, he said, people come to visit and say, "How are you? How are you feeling?" And he takes a half hour even, so what is the use of wasting time like that? "How are you? Everyone knows that I am not feeling well." "So they can come to the temple room in the morning," said Tamal Krishna Goswami. "Yes," said Prabhupada. "If they actually want to see me, I am going there. They can see me for a half hour, and for talking there is no need of talking. How are you? How are you feeling? This is not talking." "Instead," said Gargamuni Swami, "they can buy some of your books downstairs." "Yes," said Prabhupada, nodding approvingly. "This is a waste of time. I want to stop this. To answer all these things, how are you?" By saving this time and energy, he said, he could work on his book writing. Devotees assured him that everyone would appreciate this schedule and would be happy that he was working on the 10th canto. "I think I shall be able to work from today," Prabhupada declared. "Now I have got very nice place, full freedom, so there will be no difficulty." That Prabhupada would not take any morning walks went without saying. Everyone closely involved with Srila Prabhupada had come to accept a new way of living, with no morning walks and very few classes. Someone suggested that Prabhupada might like to walk on the roof, but even that seemed to be too difficult. "No, one story I can go," said Srila Prabhupada. "Not now, but I can go, so you are trying so much for my comfort. I do not know whether I shall be able to repay you, but I shall try my best. It is not possible to repay your debt. You are so kind. So I can simply pray to Krishna to give his blessings to you so that you may remain very steady in devotional service and preach his message all over the world. Otherwise, I have no other means. Without your help, I could not do anything. So you are very kind. Kindly continue your cooperation. This is the movement for para upakar, doing good for others. I have got report from our other temples all over the world. They are doing very nice, is it not? Other temples outside India, they are doing very nice." Swarup Damodar, who had recently come from the West, told about the successful standard of devotional service in the temples there. Prabhupada said he wanted silence, so he could do his work. And he told a little story about a woman whose tinkling bracelets disturbed her husband. The husband took one bangle away, but still he was disturbed by the tink, tink, tink. He took away another bangle and another, until there was only one left. Then there was no more tink, tink, tink. Prabhupada specifically asked his secretaries not to gather and talk in the outer room. Remain always one, said Srila Prabhupada, and read books. Then there will be no noise. And as soon as you become two, tink, 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 that I don't want. It won't happen, said Tamal Krishna. If anyone comes to see me, I will go out of the apartment. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada. In this way arrange. It should remain always quiet and serene. These are your quarters, said Tamal Krishna. No one else should come. And we shall arrange for seeing our own men at a time, said Srila Prabhupada. But the principle should be silence. That will be all right. I will be free to work. Prabhupada continued to appreciate his new situation. The rooms were well ventilated, with plenty of sunlight. Other ISKCON buildings, like the Bhaktivedanta Manor in London, were very good, he said. But in most seasons he couldn't open the doors or windows because of the cold. You have to remain packed up, he said. In Detroit and London, you cannot open a window. But here in Bombay the temperature was ideal, and the area outside Prabhupada's window was verdant. Days went by, and most devotees in Bombay never got to see Prabhupada. They were all used to having him come down in the morning and walking with them for an hour on Juhu Beach. And they were used to having him come to greet the deities, give classes, and give darshan in the afternoon. He had always been open, especially in India, allowing anyone to see him at almost any time. He had always received them warmly and listened to their problems or questions with great sympathy. So, for them not to be able to see him, even while he was living in their midst, was traumatic. Only 2 or 3 secretaries stayed with him, and whenever other devotees came into his rooms to see him, they would feel that they were taxing him and would leave at the first opportunity. Unexpectedly one morning, Srila Prabhupada appeared in the temple room, and the few devotees removed Prabhupada's picture from the Vyasasan so he could sit down. He hadn't given any warning that he was coming, and many of the devotees were absent. But the word spread that Prabhupada was there, and the devotees came running. After the Guru Puja Arti, Srila Prabhupada spoke to the assembly of devotees. He said he was sorry that he couldn't come down more often, and that he wanted to cook for all the devotees and serve them. On Sunday, he said, he would cook a feast and invite all the devotees up to his quarters. I shall come daily to the temple, he said, and I shall remain up to 8 for our darshan and talks, if there is any comment. Generally, every day it will be done, and on Sunday you can fix up some time. I will speak in the evening, and then Krishna's desire as he likes. But for the time being, this arrangement. Prabhupada's humility and his exactly reading the minds of the devotees made them feel ecstatic love for him. Some of them had even been thinking that Prabhupada had forgotten them and that other things had become more important for him. But now he was reassuring them. Although he appeared to be incapacitated, he was fully reciprocating with his disciples. He was telling them that as they were controlled by him, so he was also controlled by their loving service. Srila Prabhupada then explained the significance of Guru Puja, analyzing some of the words in the song the devotees sang each morning during the ceremony. So the necessity is prema bhakti, he said. Prema bhakti jaha hoite, avidya vinasa jate, divya gyan. So what is that, divya gyan? Prabhupada explained that it was the duty of the Guru to awaken divya gyan, or superior knowledge of the self. Because the Guru reveals divya gyan, he is worshipped. For the non-devotee, divya gyan is never manifest, and one thinks of himself in terms of his body, as American, Hindu, or Muslim. So, we worship the Guru, said Prabhupada, because he gives us superior knowledge. Not this knowledge of how to eat, how to sleep, how to have sex life and defend. Generally, the political leaders, the social leaders, they give this knowledge: how to eat, how to sleep, how to have sex, how to defend. The Guru has no business with these things. He has Divya Gyan, superior knowledge. That is required. This human form of life is an opportunity to awaken that Divya Gyan Hride Prakashito. And if he is kept in darkness about that Divya Gyan, then life will be lost. Remember this. It is a very risky life to be once again thrown into the waves of birth and death. We do not know where we will go. It is very serious. Krishna consciousness is Divya Gyan. It is not ordinary knowledge. So, you should always remember these words: Divya Gyan Hride Prakashito. And because the spiritual master enlightens with Divya Gyan, one feels obliged to him. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Sri Sri Guruvashtaka by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So, this Guru Puja is essential, just as the deity worship is essential. It is not cheap adoration. It is the process of enlightenment, of Divya Gyan. Thank you very much. Not only was Prabhupada reminding his disciples that he hadn't forgotten them, but he was also reminding them that they should not be absent from the Guru Puja and worshipful thoughts of the spiritual master, even if he was not able to personally come before them. Srila Prabhupada mostly stayed alone in his room, and during the day he would move from one desk to another, either to dictate the Bhagavatam, to take prasadam, or to speak to guests. He was especially prolific at his writing. Rising at 1 or 2 in the morning, he would dictate 90, 100, and occasionally almost 200 digits on his dictating machine. This was more than he had done in months. But he had little appetite. He could not eat anything heavy, and sometimes he had no appetite even for a cup of milk. Palika Dasi and sometimes Shirachora Gopinath, a Bengali devotee, were the cooks. Srila Prabhupada liked Shirachora Gopinath Shukta, made from neem leaves, eggplant, bitter melon, potato, sweet potato, and yogurt. One morning, Srila Prabhupada asked for orange juice, but there were no oranges in the kitchen. Gopinath ran to get them, but when he returned, Srila Prabhupada was ringing his bell. Gopinath rushed in and asked and told him, "I'm just coming. It takes time to make the juice." After a few minutes, when the juice did not come, Srila Prabhupada began repeatedly ringing his bell. As Gopinath at last entered with the juice, Prabhupada spoke out angrily. "I am sick with no appetite, and when I have a little hunger, then you take ours." He said he didn't want the juice, but Gopinath put it on the table anyway. Srila Prabhupada picked the glass up and drank. "You are serving me so nicely," he said quietly. "I am always chastising you." When one gets old, he becomes short-tempered. Gopinath had not felt bad about the reprimand, but on these humble words from Srila Prabhupada, he felt terrible. Gopinath became so emotional that he could hardly speak. Yet he managed in a choked voice to say, "Please, Srila Prabhupada, don't speak like that. I make mistakes, and if you don't correct them, then who will?" There were many little personal exchanges like this between Srila Prabhupada and his assistants. But sometimes he would be more silent and inward than they had ever seen him before. He would spend time chanting and reading, and only on special occasions would he see a guest. Srila Prabhupada agreed to an interview with Mr. Koshi, assistant editor for the Current magazine. Mr. Koshi's approach was not reverent, but provocative, in search of a lively interview. Prabhupada was interested in speaking to many people through a magazine article, but he had no interest in flattering the editor or in compromising. Especially of late, as at the Bombay Pandal, Prabhupada was speaking in the most plain, direct words. Whoever approached him, he informed about Krishna and their illusion in not accepting Krishna. Mr. Koshi asked Prabhupada why he had been recognized first in countries other than India. Because they, Indians, are so poor. They cannot purchase diamond, said Srila Prabhupada. But diamond must be there. They are so poor-hearted, their education has been so poorly given that they cannot understand. Poorly given? Asked Mr. Koshi. Yes, replied Prabhupada. They are teaching, you are this body. Jump like cats and dogs, that's all. That is nationalism. It is, you are this body. Jump like cats and dogs. A group, as a group of crows, gather together. Caw, caw, caw. That has been taught. Make a group and crow. But you don't find this word nationalism in the Bhagavad Gita. These are all borrowed words. So what is your alternative? Asked Mr. Koshi. We are preaching internationalism, said Prabhupada. Everyone welcome. Come to Krishna consciousness. Here is Christian, Hindu. Here is African, Mohammedan, everything. That is real United Nations. If they were thinking that I am American, then why are they after a poor Indian man? Indians are known outside India as poverty-stricken, and that's a fact. But actually, we are not poverty-stricken. If we cultivate our own standard of knowledge, Bhagavad Gita, then we are the richest. We can give the whole world these gifts. Srila Prabhupada said it was regrettable that scholars and politicians pretend to be students of Bhagavad Gita without even knowing the difference between the body and the owner of the body. They do not even know the first lessons of Bhagavad Gita. So, what is the solution? Asked Mr. Koshi. Solution, Prabhupada shouted. You learn it. But they don't want to do it, said Mr. Koshi. Then they will go to hell, said Prabhupada. What can be done? If you want to cut your own throat, you can do it. Who can save you? But our duty is to say, don't commit suicide. Mr. Koshi made a case for drinking tea and coffee. He could not see how such things were sinful. Prabhupada explained that they were intoxicants. But there are several million like me, said Mr. Koshi. Millions of zeros does not mean one, said Srila Prabhupada. Zero is zero. If there are 7 million zeros added together, you cannot make one. Mr. Koshi also wanted to ask why Prabhupada paid so much attention only to Krishna, since there were hundreds of gods in the pantheon, but Prabhupada stopped him short. Mr. Koshi asked about the brainwashing controversy. There are so many accusations, said Prabhupada, but now it is in the court. But you don't require recognition of any court, do you? Asked Mr. Koshi. You require, replied Prabhupada, laughing. I don't require, you require. Yes, until then, said Mr. Koshi, there is doubt. But you are after the court, said Prabhupada. After the judges. We are not after anyone. We are after one, Krishna. That's all. We know what our duty is. Srila Prabhupada further explained that opposition was coming in America because so many young people were taking to Krishna consciousness. Young men are taking it, said Prabhupada. They are preaching. They have sacrificed their lives, so they are intelligent persons. They can understand that they should not die. Krishna consciousness is not an old man's recreation. No, said Mr. Koshi, but you are responsible for it. I am not, said Prabhupada. Krishna is responsible. I am just distributing. My duty is to distribute. That's all. Mr. Koshi asked Prabhupada if he was happy with the way his movement had spread, and Prabhupada replied, "Why shall I not be happy? I am not manufacturing anything. That is not my business." Jumping from one topic to another in search of readable magazine copy, Mr. Koshi asked Prabhupada, "How is your health now?" "Not good," Prabhupada replied. "Health or no health, it is the outward machine. That doesn't matter. But if it is a good machine, then it helps, that's all. Otherwise, machine, good or bad, it doesn't matter." "What happens when the machine stops?" "If your machine has stopped," Prabhupada said, "you take another machine, that's all. Why shall I be overwhelmed? Oh, machine is going, machine is going. Therefore, Krishna says, you are lamenting for the machine, you nonsense. That is not the Pandit's business." Mr. Koshi, what is your typical day like? What time do you get up, and how do you spend your day? "How can I say?" replied Prabhupada. "I have got so many things." Tamal Krishna, sensing that the interview had gone about as far as it could profitably go, spoke up. "Srila Prabhupada," he said, "I want to suggest that if he has some further questions, we could try to answer them, and then if there are still unanswered ones—" "No," said Srila Prabhupada. "He has no answer on this spiritual matter. He will ask me some political questions. We have no function in politics." Mr. Koshi disregarded the signal from Prabhupada's secretary and went on with his questions. "You see," he said, "when I see a group of young people like these boys here dancing in the street, it is something jarring to my eyes. What is the necessity for the chant?" "One man's food is another man's poison," Prabhupada replied laconically. "No, no," said Mr. Koshi. "There must be a purpose behind it." "Yes," said Prabhupada. "That is the way to spiritual understanding in this age." Mr. Koshi asked about illicit sex, and Prabhupada replied that sex should be used only within marriage for begetting children. "Don't you think that the children should be given freedom to choose voluntarily?" "Do you want to give freedom to your children?" asked Prabhupada. "I am asking you," said Mr. Koshi. "No, no," said Prabhupada. "What is the use of giving freedom to a child with a razor? He will cut his throat, that's all." "But at a later age, perhaps." "Later age, yes," said Prabhupada. "That is enjoined. When a child is 16 years old, he can do as he likes, not before that." Now Mr. Koshi was ready to wrap it up. "What is your message to the world?" he asked Prabhupada. Prabhupada and the devotees laughed. "Again you asked me," said Srila Prabhupada. "After reading Ramayana, you are asking me whose father is Sita. I have explained already." Before Mr. Koshi left the room, Prabhupada requested, "Write nice article." "Don't worry about that," Mr. Koshi replied. "It is my job." Srila Prabhupada made sure Mr. Koshi took prasadam before leaving. Disciples continued to come to Bombay in hopes of getting direct instructions from Srila Prabhupada. Much could be done through his secretary, avoiding "how are you feeling" conversations, yet sometimes Prabhupada did meet directly with certain disciples. He was still involved, at least through his secretary, in most of the important dealings of his movement and its leaders. By mail, he heard Atreya Rishi's plan for introducing Krishna consciousness in Karachi, Pakistan, and he said the plans were intelligent. He saw and approved a new film by Yadubara. He met with Hansaduta Swami and requested him to develop the preaching in Sri Lanka. He heartily approved Prabhu Vishnu's going to preach in Dhaka, Bangladesh. He heard of the need for strong preachers in Hyderabad, and when Srila Prabhupada's disciple Sridhar Swami came to see him, he asked him to go there. He saw Lokanath Swami and encouraged him in his program of traveling by bullock cart and preaching in the Indian villages. Lokanath had brought Srila Prabhupada a Marathi translation of The Perfection of Yoga, and Srila Prabhupada sat for some time listening to Lokanath Maharaj read aloud, although Prabhupada said he didn't know the Marathi language. When an ISKCON Bombay Pujari wanted to know if some Shaligram Shilas were bona fide, Srila Prabhupada agreed to see them, confirmed that they were genuine, and advised how they should be worshipped. Certain managerial affairs Prabhupada would try to avoid, although often to no avail, such as concerning the delays in completing the construction work at Bombay. He could hear the sounds of the work, and sometimes it was noisy, but it was the slowness that perturbed him. Sometimes he would sit silently for hours and then remark to his servant or secretary that he was very upset by the construction delays. "You are sincere workers," Prabhupada told the devotees in charge, "but no intelligence. I can see that this construction work is not going on. Am I to close my eyes? I can do that, but I am a sensible man. How can I close my eyes? They are all giving their excuses." Srila Prabhupada analyzed the different leaders, and on finding defects in each of them, concluded that they were incompetent to speed up the construction. When Tamal Krishna suggested that maybe they should consult a life member who was expert in construction, Prabhupada approved. So Mr. Mohata, an engineer and life member, was brought to see Srila Prabhupada. At that time, the construction company was demanding that all past bills be paid before they would go on with the work. But Srila Prabhupada said he wouldn't pay any more bills until the work was completed. Then all bills would be paid in full. Although some of the devotees were more inclined to pay the company right away, at least partially, so that the work would go on smoothly, Mr. Mohata at once appreciated Prabhupada's reasoning and began dealing with the construction company on that basis. He got results and Prabhupada was relieved. Thus, although Prabhupada was eager to retire fully, he did not feel he could remove himself from ISKCON management yet. Srila Prabhupada had no regular doctor. From time to time, a Kaviraj, Ayurvedic doctor, might show up to give a diagnosis and some medicine. But Prabhupada wouldn't take it very seriously. He didn't consider these Kavirajas very qualified, and if the medicine tasted bitter or produced any bad effect, he would stop taking it. Everything was up to Krishna, and a doctor couldn't change that. Prabhupada was up to Krishna, and Everything was up to Krishna, and a doctor couldn't change that. Prabhupada mentioned the relative merits of Ayurvedic and homeopathic medicines, but like any other mundane topic, medicine was something he showed little interest in. He began having the newspapers read to him. Much of the news dealt with the downfall of the Congress Party and the reform promises of the Janata Party. From time to time, Prabhupada would comment, "These rascals, wherever they go, they create trouble." One time he commented, "Mandaha sumanda matayaha." They have got a conception which is very, very bad. Their religious, social, and political conceptions are all condemned. Prabhupada's conclusion, what the fools and rascals are doing, that is the newspapers. Prabhupada directed Tamal Krishna and others to write letters and articles replying to some of the news stories. In one news editorial, the writer criticized formal education as corrupting the minds of children. Educationists and researchers, the writer urged, should look into the question and suggest remedies. Srila Prabhupada. That means the rascals do not know that godlessness and godless education will be like that. The teachers who are suggesting they are themselves bad, and they are leading. They do not know what is the defect. You can write to them, you leaders, you do not know what is the cause, this is the cause. Harav va bhaktasya kuto mahadguna, manoratenasati davato bahi. Without God consciousness, there cannot be any education. There cannot be any good qualities. You do not know this, and you are simply crying in the wilderness. All the education and its propaganda is to make the world godless, although the most scientific knowledge of God is there in the Bhagavad Gita. Write him, give him a slap, you do not know. Another article, 100 million Harijans pick a new Messiah, observed the death anniversary of Dr. Amritsar, the former champion of human rights for the untouchable caste. The writer lamented that the untouchables, termed Harijans by Mahatma Gandhi, were so downtrodden and presented such a baffling problem to the leaders and people of India. Srila Prabhupada asked Tamal Krishna to write to the editor, explaining how Krishna consciousness uplifts the most fallen. We shall elevate them to go back to Godhead, whatever they may be, said Prabhupada. The defect was that Gandhi started this Harijan movement, keeping them where they are and at the same time changing their name by rubber stamp to Harijan. That must be failure. Just by artificially giving him money or stamping approval, it won't change anything. You have to change him, and they have no plan for that. We should not misuse this word Harijan, which means the personal associate of God. Prabhupada said that some of the senior devotees should regularly write on topics which he would suggest. More and more, they should take up the management, write essays, and give lectures, transmitting the arguments he would give them. Now you try to manage the whole world organization, all GBC men, said Prabhupada. Suppose I am not there, manage very nicely, but not independently to create havoc, but really manage. I am still present, so I will give you direction. Don't spoil it. We are in a very good, prestigious position. So much hard labor. I started with a very humble condition, and now it has come such an exalted position. You don't spoil it, that is my request. Increase. That will depend on your character, behavior, and preaching. Everyone was astonished how I started this without any help. My only asset was I was sincere. Everyone knows it. Otherwise, how is it possible? The days went by peacefully, with mild, pleasant breezes always passing through Srila Prabhupada's room. His intelligence was ever sharp and alert, and yet his health did not improve. Bhavananda Goswami had come from Mayapur and had been intimately serving Srila Prabhupada, but he had to return to Bengal for important preaching duties. Srila Prabhupada said there was no doubt that Bhavananda was the best at giving massage and taking personal care of his spiritual master. But the personal servant's duties were not as important as preaching. Upendra, who had come to be Srila Prabhupada's personal servant, was surprised to see how Prabhupada's diet had changed. He could no longer cook the khichdi which Prabhupada had previously liked. Often Prabhupada would not even speak when he wanted something, but would indicate an idea or a desire with a nod of the head, a glance, a flick of the finger, or a sound like, From his room, Prabhupada heard the routine sounds of the day, the call of the cuckoos and the crows, the hammering of the marble workers, and the more distant car engines, horns, bicycle bells. He could also hear the pujari's bell and the conch shell at each arti, as well as the kirtans and bhajans in the temple room. One morning, while Prabhupada was talking to Tamal Krishna and Giriraj, the recording of the Govinda song began, signifying, as it did in all the ISKCON temples, that the deity was now giving morning darshan. Krishna consciousness is such a nice thing, said Prabhupada. Alone in this world I am struggling, and the so-called intelligent persons, they will not come. They have business. Why? If it is actually beneficial to the human society, why should I try alone? I will go on trying as long as I live. There will be no checking. But what kind of intelligent persons there are? We shall go on playing, Govindam Maripurusham Tam Ahang Bhajami. People may hear or not hear, we don't mind. Giriraj had been temple president in Bombay during the years of struggle, and he had long looked forward to the time when Prabhupada would be living in his majestic quarters and receiving the world leaders. Now that the gorgeous ISKCON center was becoming a reality, Giriraj couldn't stand the idea of Prabhupada remaining in solitude. So, when he had asked Prabhupada if he could bring him important guests, Prabhupada had agreed. Giriraj had arranged the meeting with Mr. Rajda, And now he had another member of parliament, Mr. Ram Jethmalani, ready to meet with Srila Prabhupada. Mr. Jethmalani had many doubts, however, and he had admitted to Giriraj that he didn't know whether Krishna really existed or was imaginary. His main interest was in improving the slums, but he was willing to see Srila Prabhupada, who was, after all, the guru of a worldwide movement, for a customary social visit. He would see him and then go on to a Thanksgiving tour among the members of the Bombay constituency who had voted for him in the recent elections. Srila Prabhupada's desire was to enlighten the political leaders according to the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. If that was not possible, then he wanted to elicit their help, such as in arranging special visas for foreign devotees and mediating local problems between the Bombay temple and the municipal bureaucracy. Giriraj introduced Srila Prabhupada to Mr. Jethmalani, and when Prabhupada heard of the man's interest in improving slum conditions, he replied, "So, we can uplift the position of the Harijans very easily by this process of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." He described Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda as the originators of the Hare Krishna movement. And the purpose of their movement, he said, was to alleviate the suffering of all the sinful people by giving them the Hare Krishna mantra. But for such a claim, Prabhupada said, there must be evidence. "You are a lawyer," he nodded congenially to his guest. "So you want witness and evidence." "You don't blame me," agreed Mr. Jethmalani. "No, it is not blaming," said Srila Prabhupada. "It is a fact. Without evidence, without proof, how can a law be established?" Prabhupada cited his evidence in a song by Narottam Das Thakur, which told of two great sinners, Jagai and Madhai, who had been saved by the Hare Krishna movement. That was 500 years ago, Prabhupada said, but today one could see practically in the Hare Krishna movement how drunkards and illicit sex hunters had become saintly. Krishna consciousness is so nice, he said. Everyone can be elevated. So what is this Harijan? We can uplift them. Mr. Jethmalani asked why there was no emphasis in the Bhagavad Gita on public and social service. "There is no need," said Prabhupada. "This is animal conception of life. The dogs also combine together and make a sound. Ba, 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 ba. A human being can also do like that. But then what is the difference between animals and human beings?" "But I don't know that animals, on the contrary, serve each other," said Mr. Jethmalani. "It is men who do." "But what is the use of serving?" Prabhupada asked. "What can you do? What service have you done? You cannot do anything beyond the laws of nature. Now Indira is in difficulty. What can you do? In one day, everything is finished. The law of nature is so strict, you cannot do anything. You are falsely proud that you want to help, but it is not possible. Prakritehe kriyamanani. Everything is carried out by the material energy. Bhagavad Gita 3:27. You can only do this service of understanding. You are not this body, but you are spirit soul. Your business is this. This is Dharma. Mr. Jethmalani protested that nevertheless there was so much physical suffering around. Prabhupada agreed that it was good to be sympathetic, but one had to actually do something to rectify the suffering. "So, you must know first of all how suffering can be stopped," said Prabhupada. "Then you do this, the needful. Otherwise, what is the use if you do not know the method? Dukhalayam ashashvatam. I think you have read the Bhagavad Gita." Mr. Jethmalani said he had. He could not understand yet exactly how the Bhagavad Gita could be so practical, but he was listening respectfully to Srila Prabhupada and appreciating his staunch conviction. But after a few minutes, he prepared to leave. "Anyway," he said, "I will be in touch with your Giriraj." Prabhupada continued preaching and simultaneously asked that prasadam be brought for Mr. Jethmalani. "Sir," said Mr. Jethmalani, I will take leave of you, and with your blessings, I hope we shall soon be... We are preaching Krishna consciousness without any sectarian motive, Sir Prabhupada. This is unity on the spiritual platform. Try to understand. Mr. Jetmalani said he hoped that he could be of some use to Prabhupada's movement. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada, that is required, that you want to cooperate. Whatever you order at any time, said Mr. Jetmalani. So inform him, said Srila Prabhupada, and bring prasadam. At first, Mr. Jetmalani said he would prefer that the prasadam be brought down to his car so that he could hurry and get to the public meeting on time, but Prabhupada insisted. That was no way to honor the Lord's prasadam. Kindly wait, he asked. Mr. Jetmalani said he did not want to eat in Prabhupada's presence, but Prabhupada insisted and explained that this was an exchange of love. Finally, when the full plates of prasadam were brought in, Mr. Jetmalani was very appreciative. He had been so busy that he had not eaten all day, and he found the prasadam very tasteful. This is the real human service, said Prabhupada, watching with pleasure as his guests began to eat, to give them knowledge. Mr. Jetmalani became more relaxed and friendly, inquiring about Prabhupada's daily routine and about different aspects of how Westerners had taken to Krishna consciousness. Giriraj mentioned that earlier Mr. Jetmalani had been questioning whether Krishna had an actual existence or whether he was imaginary. Why imaginary, says Srila Prabhupada. He's in the history, Mahabharata. Prabhupada continued to give historical evidence of Krishna from the Shastras, and Mr. Jetmalani listened submissively while continuing to eat. In due course, sweets were brought. In northern India, said Prabhupada, first of all they give sweets. So they eat sweets to the heart's content. The best way to destroy your appetite is to eat sweets first, said Mr. Jetmalani. Yes, said Prabhupada, and they both laughed. So I am very glad that you have taken the prasadam, said Srila Prabhupada. I am pleased. Therefore I wanted that you eat before me. It is a great pleasure. On the best of terms, Prabhupada and his guest parted, with Mr. Jetmalani promising he would confer with Giriraj about any problems. Giriraj was ecstatic. His dream of Prabhupada at the Bombay temple transforming lion-like politicians into gentle devotees was being fulfilled. Srila Prabhupada would repeatedly mention that the ISKCON leaders should prepare to carry on without his direct management. One day, he was recalling some of the incidents of his first year in New York City when suddenly he began speaking of the future. Don't spoil it, he said. Now it is up to you, my senior men. I can part away from you. My health is not good. I am old man. It is not surprising. Now, you GBC, young boys, you are American, expert. You have all intelligence. So you don't spoil it. Let the movement go forward more. You have a lot of nice places. Don't be anxious for... And even if I go, where's the harm? I have given my ideas and direction in my books. Just you have to see it. I think I have done my part, is it not? Do you think so or not? Yes, you have done everything. Still, we want the whole Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada. That will be done, said Prabhupada. Even if it is not full, there is no loss. You are competent. You can take charge. Now you can take charge of all the money and let me remain free from management. My only request is don't spoil it. I have sometimes chastised so that it may not be spoiled. Prabhupada said that for him to see that things were going on nicely under his ISKCON leaders would make him happy. And I will go on writing books. That will be all right? He said there was no need for him to eat anymore. Since he was not physically active, there was no purpose in taking a lunch of chapatis and rice. Giriraj expressed that it was the pleasure of Prabhupada's devotees to see him eat and relish prasadam, but Srila Prabhupada disregarded this and said the brain could be kept active just by a little fruit or milk. These moods, Prabhupada speaking of retirement and fasting, even hinting of passing away, were only occasional moods. They were very real, practical, and sober, but he would soon turn to other things, promising his continual involvement with his disciples, his movement, and the world. After a brief spell of such talking, he would again be commenting fiercely on the follies of the scientists and politicians. Srila Prabhupada said that if a man could not accept the simple logic that there must be God, then he was obstinate and not even sane. But these animals, he said, they are passing on as big scientists, philosophers, theologians, and so on and so forth. We have to stop them. Na mang dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhamaha. This is the qualification of the person who does not accept God. He is either dushkritinaha, naradhama, mudha, or maya ya parita jnana. Maya ya parita jnana means those who are highly educated but have no knowledge. Asurang bhavam asrityaha means they do not believe that God exists. So, as Krishna conscious leaders, you have to chastise these rascals. Giriraj said, it's actually relishable to chastise them. Yes, Prabhupada laughed, it is a pleasure sport. As they spoke, Kshira Chora Gopinath entered with the daily newspaper. What is the news? Prabhupada asked. What are all these rascals saying? Newspaper means all the statements of rascals. Gopinath read the headlines aloud. Honest plea to Congress Chief Minister. Mischief calls for assembly election. Again elections, said Prabhupada. As if election will change their quality. Let them remain rascals and simply by election replace one rascal with another rascal. Let them remain rascal but get votes. That is described in Bhagavatam. Swabid barahostra karai sangstutaha. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses glorify non-devotees. The population is Swabid barahostra, and they are giving vote. Another big pashu, animal. Yes, this is democracy. The voters are pashus, or beasts, and they are selecting another big pashu. This is going on. The rascals do not know that if, instead of a tiger, we select a lion, then what is the difference? Simply names. The tiger was president, now the lion is president, and both of them are animals. Where is the man, the human being? This is going on. And because they are pashu, they say, oh, now there is lion. Now the tiger is driven away. Now there is lion. This is going on. Am I right? Srila Prabhupada continued his sharp critical interest in his movement. When he received a report that devotees working with the BBT in Los Angeles were receiving salaries, he became disturbed. He enunciated his policy and asked his secretary to make it known. Krishna consciousness means vairagya vidya, renunciation and knowledge, he said. They are taking advantage of the temple facilities for their sense gratification. Do you understand? Prabhupada said that temple living was for brahmacharis and sannyasis. If a grihasta was rendering essential service, the temple could provide an apartment for him. But why salary? Asked Prabhupada. Where is the question of salary? Where is vairagya renunciation? Salary projects should be stopped. If they want salary, they can work outside. In the name of Vaishnava, he is drawing salary, living comfortably, having sense enjoyment. So all you, my officers, should think it over and do the needful. Prabhupada told how Lord Chaitanya was living in the perfect situation in family life with his wife and mother, and yet he left it, all, to practice vairagya. And thus he was praised by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. You are the Supreme Person, appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and you are teaching renunciation and devotional service. For weeks, Giriraj and his political acquaintance, Mr. Rajda, had spoken about arranging a meeting between Srila Prabhupada and India's new Prime Minister, Morarji Desai. When it was brought before Srila Prabhupada, the crucial question was whether Srila Prabhupada would consider going to see the Prime Minister somewhere in the city. But that is not respectful, said Prabhupada. Then he does not know how to honor a saintly person. Useless to meet. If he has no respect for a saintly person, if he thinks he is greater than a saintly person, then the visit is useless." "Yes, then the meeting will start on the wrong foot," said Krishna. "He has to come to see you, Srila Prabhupada. There are so many examples in the Shastra of big personalities coming to see saintly persons." "Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused to see the king of Orissa," said Prabhupada. "What to speak of going there?" Prabhupada explained that he did not require anything from the Prime Minister, but for the benefit of the human society, he could suggest some things to him. He said that it was a fact that, sometimes, when in difficulty, a saintly person could approach a king. He gave the example of Lord Chaitanya's devotee Gopinath Patanayaka, and how the devotees asked Lord Chaitanya to intervene to save him. But Lord Chaitanya showed that it was a difficult job to approach such royal persons. With these guidelines in mind, Giriraj pursued the idea of a meeting. On the evening of May 5th at about midnight, Giriraj received a phone call from Mr. Rajda. The meeting with Morarji Desai was fixed for 7:30 the next morning. The Prime Minister was only going to be in Bombay for 1 or 2 days and would be staying at his son's flat on Marine Drive. Although Giriraj knew that Prabhupada had said he would not go to Mr. Desai, Giriraj wanted to consult Prabhupada to see if certain leading disciples should go. Not wanting to disturb Prabhupada, he tiptoed into Prabhupada's hallway and peeked into the room. Prabhupada was awake, sitting at his translating table, working. He looked up, saw Giriraj, and motioned him to come forward. "Srila Prabhupada," said Giriraj, "I'm very sorry to disturb you at this hour, but I just received a phone call from Ratan Singh Rajda." Giriraj related that Morarji Desai was ready to meet them at his residence the next morning. Srila Prabhupada explained that he wanted to see if Morarji Desai would have been willing to come and meet him at Hare Krishna land. "It's not that I'm proud," he said, "that I can't go to meet him at his place, but unless his mood is respectful, there is no use." Prabhupada said that this was the test of whether the Prime Minister had a proper attitude. He agreed that Krishna Goswami and Giriraj should go ahead and meet the Prime Minister. Giriraj: "This meeting with Srila Prabhupada was one of the most intense and unique that I ever had, although I was able to be in his presence so many times. We were alone together at midnight. Everyone else was asleep. All the lights were out, and it was just the two of us in this big room. He was sitting behind his marble translating desk, and I was sitting on the floor at his feet. I said, 'Prabhupada, I am sorry that I had to disturb you like this in the middle of the night.' Srila Prabhupada said, 'That's all right. Actually, with this sickness, I cannot sleep at night. Even if I want to, I cannot sleep. Due to this illness, I cannot eat also. I am such an old man. There is no question of sex life, and there is no question of defense either, so I guess I'm liberated.' Of course, I knew that Srila Prabhupada was liberated, not because of bodily circumstances, as he was humbly saying, but because he was in transcendental consciousness. He was always up at night translating, not because he was sick and couldn't sleep, but out of devotion to his Guru Maharaj and to Lord Krishna. But it was a very wry, humorous remark, and I felt very charmed by the whole meeting, and offered my obeisances and went back to sleep. The next morning, Krishna Goswami and Giriraj were prepared well in advance for their meeting with the Prime Minister. Before leaving, they asked Prabhupada what books they should give him. Prabhupada replied, "Bhagavad Gita, Krishna book, and teachings of Lord Chaitanya." "In Hindi?" asked Giriraj. Prabhupada frowned. "No, English." The devotees went in their car to pick up Mr. Rajda at his flat. From there, they would go to the apartment on Marine Drive where Prime Minister Desai was staying. After Giriraj had been ringing the front doorbell for about 20 minutes, Mr. Rajda finally appeared. He said that they had to wait just 5 more minutes, while he continued dressing and eating. Unfortunately, by the time they reached the apartment on Marine Drive, it was 8 o'clock. They were 30 minutes late. As soon as they entered, the Prime Minister said, "You are very late." He was already meeting with some other people, and said that he would see the devotees for a few minutes. He repeated that he had been waiting since 7:25. The devotees remained silent, not knowing what to say. They apologized and gave him Prabhupada's books. Mr. Desai didn't say much and quickly excused himself, going back to his meeting with the others. When the devotees returned to the temple, Prabhupada eagerly asked what happened. He was very upset to hear that they had been late. Very bad, he said. He remarked that Morarji Desai was known for his punctuality. They had missed a good opportunity, he said, by their misbehavior. When the devotees explained that Mr. Rajda had made them late, Prabhupada asked for a more detailed report. The devotee said the main thing Morarji Desai wanted to know was why they were late. Did you tell him that Ratan Singh Rajda made you late? Asked Prabhupada. Giriraj and Tamal Krishna shook their heads. Prabhupada became disgusted and said, Why did you not say that he made you late? That you were on time, but he made you late? I know you are thinking that he is our friend, and you didn't want to embarrass him in front of the Prime Minister, but now the whole thing is spoiled. Feeling very foolish and ashamed, the devotee sat silently before Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada reflected for a moment. Anyway, he said, these men will never change their views. Srila Prabhupada occasionally talked of traveling to a place better for his health. It was May and Bombay was hot. Soon the monsoons would come. He had considered going to Kashmir because the air and water were reputedly good for health, but no suitable accommodations could be found there and the weather was too cool. Then one day he received a visit from Sriman Narayan, the former governor of Gujarat. You should take care of your health, said Sriman Narayan. I hope you get better. Oh, this is just an old machine, Prabhupada laughed. The more you cure it, the more it gets worse. But my work never stops. That keeps on going. My main work is to write these books, and that is going on. Several other Indian guests were present, and they at once began recommending good places for health. Srinagar, Kashmir, Dehradun, Mussoorie, Simla, Hardwar. Yes, the water in Hardwar is good, said Sriman Narayan. But better than that would be in Rishikesh, where the Ganges flows. Whatever places are on the bank of the Ganges, the water will be very good, pure Ganges water. Srila Prabhupada took these remarks seriously and turned to his disciples. Yes, then we can go to Rishikesh. This time is very good. Let us arrange for that. From that moment, going to Rishikesh became a definite plan, and Prabhupada prepared to leave Bombay within a week.